Hey, how y'all doing? I forgot that I had actually signed on. I apologize. How's everybody doing? It's so great to see everybody. Black Plant Chick, it changed my life with plants. Tanny, Vanessa, hey. What's up? Hey, everybody. I know it's late, so I'm going to try not to keep you guys too long, but I wanted to come on here and talk about this because this is such a good topic. Yeah. But before we get started, why don't you guys do me a favor and hit the share button, invite somebody to join us so that we can talk about it because sharing is caring, right? And we never know who needs to hear something that someone is talking about, right? So let's hit that share button, get some folks in here. I'm going to give people just about a few, 3 or 4 minutes more to get on. Maybe not that long, but just a couple more minutes. And I'm streaming on YouTube, Facebook, on my personal Facebook, and my Facebook group as well, and on Instagram. So 4 different places right now. So people can join in any of those places and hang out with me. But before I get going, really good, let me go ahead and introduce myself because everybody don't know who I am. I mean, I'm special and all that, but everybody don't know who I am. So let's get that out the way. I am Coach Tracy. I am a trauma healing life coach, and I work with Black women. And what I do is I help them manage their thoughts, help them manage their brain so that they can actually go through the healing process of healing from trauma, various forms. Particularly, I spend a lot of time with my clients in childhood trauma, generational trauma, and corporate or workplace trauma. And also in some historical trauma, which is racism. So hence the reason why we work with a lot of workplace and racial trauma. So if that's something that you'd like to learn more about, hang on in there with me, all right? All right. Hey, everybody that's popped on. Thank you so much. It's so awesome to be on here. I'm trying to go live more often because I've just been so busy. And so work with me, all right? All right. So tonight's topic, if you're on Facebook, you can already see what the topic is about. And it's about, I don't want to be a burden. How many of you have ever said that to someone? I have said that more times than I can remember. And there's so much in that one statement. So I wanted to unpack this because I had a client to say this to me, and we had to manage her thoughts and help her to understand what was going on, what was underlying that statement, and where it actually came from, and how it actually relates to trauma. So that's what we're going to dig into tonight. So I hope you guys got your drink, got your pen and paper, and take some notes because again, this is a good one. Many of us say this, and especially being Black women, we say this more often than not. And here's the thing. We say we don't want to be a burden. And we've heard our mothers, their mothers, our aunts, and other women say it as well. And we have all this great intention because it's like, I got this. I can do this. You got enough going on over here. Let me handle my business. I appreciate it, but no thanks. That's kind of what we do, right? But what we forget is what you resist will persist. Okay? What you resist will persist. And what I mean by that is a lot of us are dealing with so many different things, from workplace trauma. We're dealing with all these different microaggressions and these biases. And then every time we turn on the news, we're seeing something or someone where white supremacy is reared its ugly head, and or we've seen something that really hits us in the heart. More than likely it has something to do with some unprocessed emotions that we may have been dealing with or have been going through. Then we're dealing, if you have kids that are still in school, then you're dealing with the virtual school frustrations. We're dealing with the fatigue of being at home and the social distancing. So much. And let's not talk about relationship issues and concerns that we may be dealing with, right? So we're dealing with a lot. But here's the thing: if you never ever give anyone the opportunity to hear you, to see you, to support you, you're going to constantly be in that place where you're going to feel burdened. You're going to feel heavy because you're not releasing that negative energy. You're not processing the emotions. You're not handling your thoughts so that your feelings and emotions are what you want to control, because we can control how we feel. We can control our emotions by managing this baby, our brain and our thoughts. Okay. So that's what I mean by when I say what you resist will persist. But let's dig just a little bit deeper as to why we really say we don't want to be a burden. And get me back in here. I apologize. Don't know what just happened, but bear with me. So I came up with one, two, three, four, five different things that's really going on when we say, I don't want to be a burden. And if this is something that you can relate to, let me know in the comments. All right. And if you're on Facebook, remember that you do have to give StreamYard access to your Facebook page if you're going to comment, so that I can actually respond back to you and see your comments. Okay. So the first thing, when we say we don't want to be a burden, is that we have this fear that we're going to be seen as a failure. Because remember, we're the strong Black woman. We're supposed to be able to handle this. We're supposed to be able to push through, make that thing happen. Just let the water fly off your back like a duck. Because we've been told that we are human doings and not human beings. So if we can't handle this, that's failure in someone's eyes, maybe even our own eyes, that we can't handle the emotions that we are trying to process, the hurt that we're trying to process, the anger that we're trying to process, right? First thing. The second thing is, at some point in our lives, we lost vulnerability and trust. And it's more than likely due to some type of unhealed emotion enveloped in trauma. It could be childhood trauma. It could be trauma from a relationship. It could be trauma from work. Of course, it could definitely be generational trauma, because some of us actually are inheriting, if you will, some type of personalities and behaviors through our DNA, epigenetics, right? So if you're not the most trusting person, if you find like your family is not a very trusting family, it takes a lot for you to get to that place of trust. It could be generational trauma. So somewhere in there, that trust, that ability to be vulnerable, was abused, or maybe it was never there in the first place, and it's something that you may have to work on. Okay. Anybody can relate to either of those yet? Just let me know in the comments. All right. The third thing is, we feel as if no one is going to understand us, what we are going through. So why bother? Why bother bringing up all of this emotion, this everything that you're going through and sharing this, and they can't relate, they can't understand, or they have nothing to offer. At least that's what you think. They have nothing to offer, right? So I'm not going to put myself through that. No, 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 no. Not going to put myself through this pain and misery just to not really get the support that I really need. No, ma'am. Mm-mm. We're not doing that. And then we also have another one could be shame. If we can't handle it, we feel ashamed that we're not able to handle it. So we're fearful that someone else is going to see us as a failure, but we're also ashamed that we can't handle it. And that's a tough one also. Fear is a huge, huge culprit in us not moving forward when we should move forward, right? Granted, fear can be a great protector also, because when we're fearful of something, that means we're going to be a lot more astute. We're going to pay more attention. We're going to fight or flight. Yeah. So that's great. But we've got fear and we've got shame. And the last one, and I really want us to think about this last one as well, because this one is pretty interesting and we probably never thought about it. Thanks to the people who've already joined again on Instagram. I can't see everybody on Facebook, but thank you. Thank you. The last one is, could it be that you're actually projecting that your burden is too heavy for other people? And what I'm saying about that is we think that they've got so much going on when maybe they don't. Or even if they do, why not give them the opportunity to say, yeah, I that's a little much for me. You know what? I can't do it. Let them decide whether your burden is too heavy for them versus us projecting that it may be. Okay. And this last one, this is a question. This is a question that I really want us to ask ourselves, because this one is very steeped in something that we don't always recognize until we start peeling back those thoughts and really digging, right? We say that we don't want to be a burden. Is it that we really don't want to be a burden? Or is it that you don't want to be burdened, so you don't want to share what's going on with you, because one day they may want to come and share something with you and you would feel burdened. So instead of you asking for the help or allowing someone else to help you, because I'm not even trying to feel it. I got my own stuff going on over here. You deal with yours, I'll deal with mine. I ain't trying to hear that. Instead of that, why not just say, you know what? I appreciate the help, but no, thank you, because I don't want to, when that time comes that you may need help, I'm not trying to be bothered with that, because I got my own stuff going on. It's easier to make it seem like we're just being very kind and nice, but really up underneath, we may actually be feeling that way. Now, granted, there are people who truly do not want to be a burden. Truly do not want to be a burden. And I'm not saying that when we say that we don't, but we also want to understand why we're saying those things. Because here's the thing, when we are not processing our emotions, we're not actually doing the work. So it just festers. It just festers, and those emotions stay hidden. We don't do anything about them. So we're triggered often. And when we're triggered, we are actually activating our nervous system, the sympathetic nervous system. All right. So our body is constantly going in and out of fight or flight, maybe fawn or freezing. So we're putting all this tremendous stress on our bodies, right? Because we haven't dealt with the emotions, because we don't want to unpeel those things because it hurts so much. We're afraid of what we're going to find. But when we don't do those things, we're actually hurting ourselves and not really thinking about it, not knowing that we're doing it. All this anxiety and stress, and your body just going up and down. Your sympathetic, your parasympathetic, your sympathetic, your parasympathetic. And then we're not actually balancing the system when we go through that to stabilize it a lot of times. A lot of times we stay in that sympathetic place way too long. We're angry, we're mad, we're anxious, and we haven't learned how to actually balance and to stabilize our parasympathetic system so we calm down and minimize the stress and the anxiety that's going on in our body, right? So when we don't do that and we say we don't want to be a burden, we're also saying to ourselves that nobody's been listening a lot of times, and you don't give yourself the opportunity to actually be heard. You don't actually give yourself the opportunity to actually be seen by someone when you don't allow them to support you when you're dealing with something heavy. And that could be an issue of pride, but it can also be a part of both generational trauma as well as historical trauma. From the racism side of it, we've been taught again that we are supposed to be able to handle that, which has impaired us and prevented us from actually having the gifts of support. So I don't want to be a burden becomes our way to not accept that gift unknowingly. Okay. The other side of that is when we don't allow other people to support us in our emotional and even our mental state, we are not allowing them to bless us with the gifts that God has for them to give to us. In Galatians 6:2, it tells us to bear one another's burdens. And I know many of us have been raised up in the Christian faith, and whatever faith you may believe in, but many of us who've been raised up in the Christian faith, we say this often: we should bear one another's burdens, but we will turn around and say, I don't want to be a burden. If the word tells us that we are to bear one another's burdens, that is the reason why, and why it's so imperative for us to stop saying that we don't want to be a burden and instead say, you know what, I don't mind sharing. Just let me know if it's too much for you. Or in those cases when you don't know who you can share with because your vulnerability and your trust has been broken, to rebuild in those areas, find someone, maybe a coach or a therapist who is unbiased, who is not close to you, where you can get that help so that you can deal with the emotional processes and your thoughts and your feelings and your emotions, so that when you come through this healing process and this something comes up another time, you built up that vulnerability and trust with taking small steps with people that you now know that you can trust with information. You start with something small and see what they do with it, and you build and you build, and over time you'll be able to build relationships and have that vulnerability and trust with those people. Okay. But it's so imperative to do that. And then there's another scripture that's James 4:2-3. And I want to read this one to you because it's pretty important. And I like what it says because it goes back to what you resist will persist. It says, you desire, but do not have, so you kill. You covet, but you cannot get what you want, so you quarrel and fight. You do not have because you do not ask God. When you ask, you do not receive because you ask with wrong motives, that you may spend what you get on your pleasures. When I was reading this, it was pretty interesting to me because it says that you desire but do not have, so you kill. We really want help. We really want help. We really want to process those emotions. We really want those bad feelings to go away. We really want the anger to go away. We really want all of those things. However, we actually kill it when we say, I don't want to be a burden. So it's just something to think about from the perspective of the biblical side of it, but also from the side of actually blocking your own blessings and not really knowing why we're doing it. Many of us, like I said, we grew up hearing that. So we heard, honey, I don't want to be a divert. No, I got it. I got it. It could be picking up something off the stove. It could be helping us clean our home. We just came from the hospital, giving birth to our baby, or just had an outpatient surgery and we got it. No, we don't. We know we really need help. And that goes back to also, and I was reading this from generational trauma and historical trauma perspectives. When our ancestors were in slavery, right? They knew that their sisters and brothers, their neighbors, were in the same predicament that they were. So they did not want to be a burden because it was going to be hard enough for them to deal with what they have to deal with in their home versus what and adding to it from what needs to be done in your home. So we can see how it was definitely genuine, but it also did not probably serve them and it's not serving us today when we say that we don't want to be a burden and don't ask for the help or don't accept the help that someone is offering us. So I hope this was helpful. I really had a great time putting it together and just thinking through it. So anybody got any questions? Anybody got any feedback? Do you see yourself being that person that says, I don't want to be a burden? And that was me. That was me so many years ago. I will never forget. My daughters were they had to be bused to their schools because they were going to not a special school, but I wanted them in a specific school. And at that time I lived in DeKalb County and they could go to another school that had a lower population of minorities, which was typically a better school. So my oldest daughter was being bused to that school, to her high school, and my car broke down. And I will never forget. And I was very, very bad about this. I was so bad about this. I was hyper independent and I didn't understand what that meant. I just thought, hey, I got to be independent. These are my babies. This is my life, my mess, and so forth and so on. So I rarely asked for help. I mean, I literally had to be on my last, pretty much broke down rock bottom for me to ask for help. And it was one, because I didn't want to be a burden. That's what I would tell myself also. But there was that part of me that just, I need to do this. You know what? This is mine. So, and when I started studying about generational trauma and all forms of trauma and doing my own healing, I learned some of this, but there was a woman who taught me this, and what she told me was I was blocking my blessings. We never talked about bearing one of those burdens, and I just did some research on this, but I was blocking my blessings. Things that I could have gotten done so much quicker, so much faster, had I not been so hyper independent because I was trying to fill a void. I was trying to change the way people thought about me based on what I was doing and how I was showing up, versus thinking of it from a perspective of it's not weakness to ask for help. It's not weakness to receive help. That's actually what we should be getting and should be doing. But because of our conditioning, if you will, because of how we were raised and because of all the other things that have gone on in our lives, we weren't taught that we had the luxury, if you will, to do that. Because as Black women, we were always supposed to be the backbone, the glue that kept everything together. We were always on it, getting things done. That's how we were. That's how we showed up in our relationships. That's how we showed up in our families. That's how we showed up at work. We were always doing. So this was really important for me to share because when I started digging into just that one statement, it was like, wow, I need to share this with my peoples. Um, I'm on Instagram, and one of the participants, Growing Soulfully, she said, I feel like a lot of people say the phrase, I don't want to be a burden. For me, the times I've said it is because I'm afraid I will be judged, looked down upon, or my burden will. And that's so true, Growing Soulfully. That is such a beautiful way of what you said. Or that your burden will overwhelm the person that you're reaching out to. OMG. I think you may have missed it, but I'm going to read something back to you because these are the things that comes up for me while I was thinking about and helping my client work through feeling like I don't want to be a burden. The one was fear of being seen as a failure, loss of vulnerability and trust due to previous trauma, feeling as if no one understands, so why bother? Or shamed because you should feel like you should be able to do this. Another one could be the last thing that you said is that your burden may overwhelm them, is projecting that your burden is too heavy without giving them the ability or the opportunity to say whether or not it is or not. Um, so you hit it right on the head. E. Lopez Rubio, we have value. Yes, we are valuable. We deserve help from our community too. Absolutely. And it's so important because community was such a huge part of the Black community, our culture. We had so many rituals and traditions, and over the decades and generations, we've become a little bit disjointed. But because of so much that's happened over the last year with the murder of George Floyd and Trayvon Martin and Tamir Rice and so forth, I'm seeing that we are becoming more community, and I am so loving community. We need that connection. And inside community, we can connect with those people that will allow us to actually lean on them. And that's the beauty of it. When we are in community, we can make those connections. And so thanks so much for bringing that up. I think that's absolutely important. Anyone else? I'm not going to keep you long because I know it's about 9:30, but I did want to share that with you. Laina James, beautiful. Yes, it takes a village to raise a child, to overcome our difficulties, but it takes a village to actually cement and glue a community together, to for all of us to be able to have the things that we need, to be able to have the support systems in place, to be able to look out for one another. It's so important. So important. So now that you guys, I've shared this information with you, what are you going to do the next time you are in a position and you're feeling a little heaviness in your heart or in your shoulders, in your mind? Your mind is just going and going and going. And in the past, you would have said, I don't want to be a burden. Will you take a moment and reach out to someone? Or if someone sees the distress on your face or sees that you're not usually your chipper self, you're not really as excited as you used to be, and they say, is there anything I can do? I hope and pray that you're going to have a different response. But I'd love to see it in the comments. What will be your response going forward with this information? Well, I truly pray that your response is going to be, thank you so much. Where do I start? And give them the opportunity to bless you with that support. Now, if this is something that you're still having some trouble with, even after you accept their support, and you're looking for someone to help you to really manage your brain, manage your thoughts, to unlearn that conditioning, if you will, those limiting beliefs that we had in the past that may be blocking us from moving closer to where we want to be in our life, to creating the life that we desire. I would love, 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 love the opportunity to support you. So if that's something that you'd be interested in as well, please reach out to me. I did put the link on Facebook, and you'll probably be able to find it also in YouTube. But I'm also going to put it here because I know sometimes just having someone who is unbiased to have a conversation with you, to actually speak from your heart, to speak without feeling as if you're going to be judged, or someone's going to shame you, or someone's going to be overwhelmed. Whatever that feeling may be, it may be a little easier to talk to someone, and to be able to really be heard. Please let me know. I'm going to leave the link here. And you can also click the link in my bio, which will also take you to the page where you can actually schedule your own Audacity to Be Me discovery call. So I'm not sure what I'm going to talk about later this week. I do plan to come back on live at a minimum of once a week because I know I've not shown up a lot. So, but I'm working on it. Just know that I am working behind the scenes. So April, we also have a new workshop coming. I will be sharing information about that later this week. But until then, if no one has any more questions or doesn't need any coaching on anything, I'm going to sign off and allow you guys to get to what you were doing previously. Oh, Locks and Leaves says, let me start from the E. Lopez Rubio says, an attitude of gratitude. Instead of saying, can you help me? You can say, thank you so much for this support. Yes, you can certainly say that. I love that. And Rhonda says, Locks and Leaves, I've been blessed and helped by so many of my sister friends. I appreciate them so much. Yes, once we get that healing and we get past those feelings, and push them to the side and realize that we deserve to be poured into, we deserve to be seen, we deserve to be heard. It's a beautiful thing. Hey, baby girl, I love you too, baby. My daughter's on Instagram, so thank you. Well, you guys have a great one. And as always, continue to plant those seeds so that you can continue to grow, thrive, and flourish and be the woman that God predestined you to be. You deserve it, and you are so worthy of it. I will see you guys the next time. Love you. Bye-bye. Okay.